David H. Souter, renowned Supreme Court justice known for his pragmatic and independent approach, dies at 85, cause of death and final words revealed. May 9, 2025. David H. Souter, the retired U.S. Supreme Court justice who gained a reputation for his independent thinking and principled decision-making, has passed away at the age of 85. He died peacefully at his home in Weir, New Hampshire on May 9, 2025, following a lengthy battle with Parkinson's disease. His passing marks the end of an era for one of the most respected and intellectually rigorous justices of the modern court. Cause of death. Justice Souter's death was attributed to complications from Parkinson's disease, a condition he had struggled with for several years. According to close family members and former colleagues, Souter never allowed his health challenges to interfere with his work or his commitment to justice. He was a man of great integrity, and even in his final years, he never wavered in his dedication to the law, said one of his longtime law clerks. Although Parkinson's disease gradually took a toll on his body, Souter's mind remained sharp, and he continued to follow legal developments closely up until the very end. A family spokesperson noted that the former justice's devotion to the law remained unchanged, even as his health declined. Final words. In his final days, Souter's family reported that his last words were a powerful reflection of his lifelong philosophy. Justice requires clarity. These words were spoken quietly but firmly, underscoring the clarity of thought and deliberation that defined Souter's tenure on the Supreme Court. The words were shared by a caretaker who had spent hours at Souter's side in the days leading up to his death. The caretaker noted that Souter's final moments were marked by calm and dignity, a fitting end for a man whose career was characterized by careful thought and deliberate action. A lifelong commitment to the law. David Souter's path to the U.S. Supreme Court was an unlikely one. Born on September 17, 1939 in Melrose, Massachusetts, Souter's early years were shaped by his upbringing in the rural town of Weir, New Hampshire. He attended Harvard University and later became a Rhodes Scholar at Oxford University, where he studied at Exeter College. After completing his studies, Souter returned to New Hampshire and became an active part of the state's legal community. Souter's journey to the highest court in the land began when he served as New Hampshire's Attorney General. His tenure as the state's chief law officer solidified his reputation as a thoughtful and impartial jurist. His brief service on the U.S. Court of Appeals for the First Circuit laid the groundwork for his eventual nomination to the Supreme Court in 1990 by President George H.W. Bush. At the time of his nomination, many expected Souter to be a conservative vote on the court. However, once appointed, he surprised many by emerging as one of the most independent and unpredictable justices of his time. Though appointed by a Republican president, Souter often aligned with the court's liberal wing, especially in key cases related to civil rights, abortion, and criminal justice reform. His decisions were guided not by ideology, but by a careful and meticulous reading of the law. Landmark opinions and jurisprudence. Justice Souter's tenure on the Supreme Court included several landmark opinions that have shaped the landscape of American law. Notable cases include Planned Parenthood v. Casey, 1992. In this pivotal case, Souter was part of the majority that upheld the central tenets of Roe v. Wade, cementing a woman's constitutional right to choose. His role in this decision reinforced his commitment to preserving individual liberties against government intrusion. Bush v. Gore, 2000. Souter dissented in the controversial case that ultimately decided the outcome of the 2000 presidential election. In his dissenting opinion, Souter warned of the long-term consequences of the court's involvement in what was largely a political matter, highlighting the dangers of undermining public trust in the judicial system. Atkins v. Virginia, 2002. In this case, Souter joined the majority in ruling that executing individuals with intellectual disabilities constitutes cruel and unusual punishment. The decision was emblematic of his belief in the importance of human dignity and fairness, even in the most difficult of legal matters. Souter's jurisprudence was often characterized by his deep respect for precedent and his dedication to interpreting the Constitution in a manner that was both pragmatic and principled. He was never swayed by political pressure, and his opinions were marked by clarity and a profound understanding of the human experience. Life after the court. In 2009, after nearly 2 decades of service on the Supreme Court, Souter surprised many by announcing his retirement. He cited a desire to return to his beloved New Hampshire, where he had spent much of his life. His decision was met with a mixture of sadness and respect, as he had become a stalwart figure on the court, admired for his intellect and independence. After retiring, Souter largely withdrew from the public eye, preferring to live a quiet life in New Hampshire. He remained an occasional voice in legal discussions, but he had no desire to return to the political spotlight. Those who knew him best described him as someone who was content to let his work speak for itself. Reflections and tributes. Following news of his death, tributes to Souter poured in from colleagues, political leaders, and legal scholars alike. Chief Justice John Roberts expressed his admiration for Souter's intellect and integrity, describing him as a man of deep wisdom who brought unparalleled care and clarity to his work. Justice Sonia Sotomayor, who succeeded Souter on the court, shared a heartfelt tribute, recalling his mentoring during her time as a law clerk and his invaluable advice. Justice Souter showed me that clarity in the law is not just about legal precision, but about understanding the broader implications for people's lives, she said. President Joe Biden, who worked with Souter during his time as a U.S. Senator, expressed deep sorrow at the news of his passing. Justice Souter's contributions to the law will echo for generations, Biden said. He was a model of judicial independence, and his legacy will endure in the decisions he made and the principles he upheld. A private goodbye. Souter's final wishes reflected his modest and private nature. He requested no state funeral or public ceremonies. Instead, he asked for a small, private memorial with close family and friends. In lieu of flowers, Souter requested that donations be made to the New Hampshire Historical Society, a cause close to his heart. Additionally, Souter's extensive personal papers and journals were donated to Harvard Law School, where they will be studied by future generations of legal scholars. The U.S. Supreme Court has announced that it will honor Souter's legacy during its next session, any game day, with a special ceremony planned to reflect on his contributions to American jurisprudence. Former clerks and colleagues from across the ideological spectrum are expected to participate, sharing their thoughts on his career and the profound impact he had on the court. A lasting legacy. David Souter's passing marks the end of an era in American law. He was a man whose career was defined by a devotion to the law and an unwavering commitment to fairness. He may have been a quiet figure, but his impact was profound. Justice Souter showed that the law is not a tool of political power, but a mechanism for ensuring justice and equality. His legacy will live on through the many landmark decisions he authored and the countless lives he touched during his distinguished career. In the words of Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, Souter's colleague for many years, Justice Souter reminded us all that the law is not an instrument of politics, but a framework for fairness, and he never lost sight of that vision. David H. Souter's life was one of service, intellect, and unwavering dedication to justice. His death marks the loss of a true legal giant, but his influence on the law and his legacy will continue to shape the future of the American judiciary for years to come.